莫斯科的富士鸡，爱上牛肉面疙瘩，
各种颜色的皮肤，各种颜色的头发，
嘴里念的说的开始流行中国话。
曾守望山海，苍穹一念开。
Hello everyone, how are you today? Today I'm coming with a video about how to learn Chinese, how to start learning Chinese at least, because I'm still in the process of exploring how to learn this language perfectly. But it's been 5 years now, and well, I can already tell you how to start. So let's go. First, I wanted to talk about the why you should learn Chinese. I'm not here to tell you what you should or you shouldn't do, what you should learn or shouldn't learn, but at least I'm gonna tell you why I'm studying Chinese. I started studying Chinese at first because I was curious about the language. It was in 2011. It was my first year of not high school, or university, and I had to choose between math and a third foreign language, so I chose Chinese. I truly loved the language at first, but I gave up. I started to learn Chinese seriously in 2017 when I was about to go back to university to finish my diploma, to graduate. That was after I came back from Barcelona. And why I wanted to learn Chinese at that particular moment was that my application was denied. I applied to university, but I got rejected absolutely everywhere. So I was like, okay, I give up on Chinese. Why couldn't I learn the language? Maybe it's gonna be more, it's gonna make me stand out of the crowd, you know. If I wanna go back to university, it's gonna be a chance for me because I'm in France. I'm gonna be studying Chinese by myself. I'm gonna reach a reasonable level. So well, that's effort, you know. They're gonna take my effort into account, especially given the fact that I'm studying foreign languages. So that's how I started learning Chinese. Why I continued to learn Chinese now. Today we're in 2021, and why I'm continuing to learn Chinese and why I'm investing money in in my training is because of the position of China in the world. I mean, if you study international relations, international trade, you know that China is in a good position right now. I mean, you know that in the future we would be needing Chinese a lot. It would be an asset to be able to speak Chinese at a reasonable level, more than reasonable, at an excellent level. So that's why I'm studying Chinese, and less interest driven. I really love this language because when I started to self-study the language, I started to dive into the culture, and I discovered a new world. It was a new world for me to learn about China, the history, what they've been through, and since more than 5,000 years, and they're still here. They still have their language, their culture, they adapt. I mean, they're there's so much things to learn from them, and I feel connected to them in some way, and I feel a great sense of respect for Chinese people, honestly. Learning their language without even having been to their country, and getting to know them, getting to know their perception of life. They just opened my heart on a world that I ignored, on this world where you are yourself, you're proud of yourself, of your culture, of your language, of who you are in definition, and well, that's it. That was the first why you should learn Chinese. Second question, how to start learning Chinese. Well, that's a tricky question. Um, because before you start learning Chinese, you need to have a goal. Like, if you don't have a goal, it's okay, it's fine. Well, let's go like that. First, you need to have a goal. If you have a goal, if you want to work in China, if you want to go live in China, study, or well, I don't know, if you wish to marry a Chinese man, or I don't know, well, you are serious like about learning Chinese, you want to reach the highest level of proficiency, and go and have a life in China, you need to set that goal. You need to know exactly what you want, because it's a difficult language. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's extremely difficult. It's difficult in the sense where you need to master the tones, you need to memorize the characters and the tricky grammar points, like, the tricky grammar rules. People say that there is no grammar in Chinese, but there is grammar, trust me. It's difficult. It's gonna take you time, energy, it's gonna take like a lot of time. So you need to be prepared. You need to know exactly what you want, exactly where you're going. At least have an idea of where you want to be. Like, maybe in 5 years from now, if you start learning Chinese today, what do you want to be in 5 years? This is something you need to be clear about. So like, once you've defined your goals, you know exactly what you want, you need to make a study plan, but this study plan is going to be for you to implement the Chinese language in your life. If you just have Chinese to learn, if you don't have any other language, and you just have this language, focus on just one language, just like Chinese. If you just want to focus on just one language, on just Chinese, you need to be able to make a study plan and have a life in which you implement Chinese in absolutely everything you do. On your way to work, you need to listen to podcasts. On the bus, on the train, anywhere you go, you need to have a podcast. You need to listen to the language all the time. This is going to help you working like on your ears, work on the tones. Even if you're not pronouncing, you're not working on the lessons, it's going to like make your ears get used to the language. This is the most important part. When you learn a language, whether it's Chinese or any other language, your ears, the listening part is the most important. Because remember, when we were younger and we used to learn our mother tongue, our native language, we didn't speak when we were like 6 months old, but you kept listening to your parents and your entourage, the people around you, and then at some point you start like speaking the language. So this is going to be the same. Implement the language in your daily life. Podcasts, movies, film, anything you do in your native language, try and do it in Chinese, but focus on the listening. At first, you need to focus on the listening. This is the most important part. It's going to help you like big time for the tones. Then what I advise you is, well, the listening and the speaking, because it's a language where you will have to memorize the characters, but I usually advise people to learn the characters in the end. So like, I don't know how your lesson is going to be structured, but it goes like this. When I started, I was using a website, and my teacher, he would put, first you have the pronunciation. So like, you will learn a bunch of words. Yeah, you have the list of vocabulary with the Chinese characters, and then the pinyin, and you have the pronunciation. and you have all these words that you had to repeat and listen and repeat and listen, you know. And then you had the sentences like of the text, of the lesson that you had to repeat, you listen and repeat, listen and repeat. Then you have the grammar point, and then you have the whole text. Then you study the text in the end, and then you do some exercises, and then you can print there's the character drills, like to practice the character, you know, the grid, you know, to practice the character. So like you need to always start with the listening and the speaking. Focus on the pronunciation when it comes to learning Chinese. You need to focus on the pronunciation, because I think your first goal here is to speak the language, you know. So like focus on speaking the language before you can even think about writing the characters. But you can practice the characters, but this is not going to be your main focus, you know. And remember, it's a long journey. This is something I love to say. It's a lifetime journey. When you start learning a language, know that you're gonna learn the language all your life. So no rush. You don't have to rush into something. You can start learning Chinese, and then when you go to China, you can improve there. When you want to study at a Chinese university, when you want to apply for a visa or to study in China, they ask you to reach the level 3 of the HSK, you know. That's B1, you know. Like you don't even have to be fully fluent to study in China. They do that because in their mind, when you're gonna be in China, it's gonna be easier for you to start from the level, the HSK 3 level, to improve, to become fluent in Chinese, you know. So like you have to build the solid foundations for you to be able to improve. It's gonna be easier for you to improve in the long run, you know. That's it. So like this is how you're gonna start learning the language. Your mindset. First thing first, your goal. Second thing, your study plan. Implement the language in your life. Chinese is gonna be a part of you from 8 o'clock in the morning to like 10 o'clock at night, you know. When you have a moment, don't hesitate to watch movies, to listen to podcasts. If you are at work and you don't have to pick up the phone, you can just listen to podcasts while you're working or anything, or on the train, the bus. It's gonna help you to do that on a daily basis, especially when you're starting to learn the language. It needs to be intense, you know. And that's it for like if you have a goal. Well, if you're just learning Chinese for fun, if you don't have any particular goal, you're just curious about the language, and you think one day you're gonna go to China and you're gonna visit, but like you don't need to be fluent, you don't need any particular level, you don't need to be anywhere in the language. Well, you can just take your time. I would advise you to do the same. The listening, discover the culture, you know. You can learn more about the culture, you can watch movies, you can read about China, and just apply to some lessons. You have like apps. Well, I'm gonna talk about that much later, but you can just have fun learning the language. But in any case, you don't need to rush into anything, you know. It's not a competition, it's not a race. When you start learning a language, it's for life, you know. So you can just start and then stop and start again. Well, anything, it depends on you and your goals, and like your time, the time you can allow yourself to study the language, anything, you know. Well, now I'm going to talk about the materials that you need. Hey, I'm back. So, what do you need? What material do you need to start learning Chinese? Honestly, I'm gonna tell you what I did, and you're going to judge what's good for you. Remember, I always tell you, you need to explore language learning, especially if you're self-studying a language. You have there is always room for new materials, new methods. You can always explore and find something that's better for you. So I'm just sharing with you my experience of a Chinese learner, but you can find yourself, you can find your own path, your own methods, your own apps or materials. But I'm gonna share with you what I did. So like when I started studying Chinese. Remember, I told you you need to focus on the listening and the pronunciation, the speaking, especially, well, the tones and everything. What I did is I always used a website and an app. I have like different apps, like my website for the lessons, the Chinese skill app, which is like, to me, it's the best app out there to learn Chinese, and DuChinese, which is a graded readers app, with different texts, the reading, like to practice your reading. You have different text about China, the culture, you have like history, you have stories, like folk legends and everything. It's really amazing. I love this app. And then you have Chinese story app, which is an app where you can buy books, like digital books, about China and the culture, like modern China and ancient China. Well, and it helps you practice your Chinese, practice your reading. You can start memorizing the characters. You have vocabulary lists. You have the listening. You can listen and repeat. Work on your pronunciation. I prefer to use to interact. I love interactive apps. You can listen, you can read, like everything is like together and it's easier for you to follow up. I will not recommend you to use books when you start learning Chinese, especially when you're a beginner. For HSK1, HSK2, I didn't use any book when I started. Like HSK1, HSK2, I didn't use any book. When I passed these levels, I started using a book. So like it's up to you to choose to learn like with books or anything. This is my experience. Why I didn't use any books when I started learning Chinese. That's because I got frustrated whenever I wanted to use a book or buy a book, and I would go through the pages and I would see especially in French, explanations in French. They explain to you how the language works. What I needed was like a book only in Chinese, only in Mandarin Chinese, where I could recognize the characters and I could read and see and review the characters that I had already memorized. This is exactly what I wanted to do. So that's why I didn't use any book at first. Because when you open a book and you just see anything in characters and you don't recognize any characters, it's frustrating. And well, you abandon, you don't want to learn the language because you feel like you didn't memorize anything, So that's why I highly recommend, pick an app, a website, and a few apps to read more about the culture, and well, that's it. Well, guys, that's it about learning Chinese. This is exactly what I wanted to tell you. It was a long if you have any more questions, you want to know more, or you want to say something, you have something to add, you want to like maybe have a debate or share your materials with me, if you're learning Chinese and you want to share something with me, or maybe have a discussion or add something to my video, don't forget to put it in the comments, to subscribe to this page, and well, let's have some fun. I'm preparing more videos for you guys, maybe one video per week. I'm gonna try and do that since I'm gonna start working, and well, I'm going back to school in September, so it's gonna be a bit complicated for me, but I'm trying to do my best to give you all you need to start learning languages by yourself. Okay, so don't forget to follow me on Instagram to have your daily dose of languages. Hey, bye bye.